How do you become this self-sufficient person?
To make the mindset shift and become self-sufficient. It's mainly realizing how dependent we are in the city. No matter how much money you have, there is more and more control, more restrictions. The 15-minute city concept, facial recognition control, all of that is leading us to lose individual freedoms. Your electricity and water rely on external sources, and even if you can pay, they control when you have access or not.
About the blackout, didn't you even notice that all of Spain was in the dark?
Nothing. And if it had lasted longer, I don't think I would have noticed either. And about food, I have chickens, I have goats, I have a pig, which I'll be butchering soon.
How much money are we talking about that you've had to invest to be in the position you're in today?
I'll tell you, more or less approximately. Yes, right? For example, you have to spend a certain amount of euros at the beginning. A blackout might happen once, but they're shutting us down more each day, eventually leaving us in the dark. If my father hadn't told me the next day, I wouldn't have known.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of LA Factoria. Today we have an extremely special guest. You already know that on this channel we always talk about getting out of the system, about how they want to control us, and today we have someone who has literally broken free. Getting out of the matrix. But generally, when people talk about getting out of the matrix, they always tend to focus on the same thing: financial freedom. Now then, today we have someone who not only has that, but also has food freedom and is absolutely self-sufficient. His name is IKER and his Instagram is Vidanvela. How are you, IKER? It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Joda. I'm delighted to be here on your podcast.
Damn, man, honestly, I saw your content and I said, dude, I've always thought about it. Truly. If a conflict breaks out, if this world goes to hell, if we lose power, energy, everything. The only way to survive and take care of your loved ones is by living a lifestyle like yours. Tell us a little. How did you start?
That's right, but before anything else, I wanted to tell you that you don't have to wait for a catastrophe for this. This isn't about packing a backpack and leaving, but rather that all the things that happen to us and control us happen every day. It's not just a single blackout. Every day they're shutting us down more. We're losing sovereignty and can't feed ourselves from what we raise. There are more and more laws, more restrictions, and something like a blackout might be a one-time thing, but every day they're shutting us down more and more until they leave us in the dark. Actually, I didn't notice the blackout because I'm self-sufficient. When it comes to electricity, I don't have a supply at the property where I live, and I have solar panels. I also have my own water source, and I have my animals. I mean, if my father hadn't come to tell me the next day that this had happened, I wouldn't have found out. Let's see.
So you mean during the blackout you didn't even notice that all of Spain was in the dark?
Nothing. Zero. In fact, I was at my farm, I was there with my chicken, I was just building the chicken coop, and I didn't even notice. I usually call my mother every day and thought the phone wasn't working today, but I just kept going and didn't notice the blackout. And if it had lasted longer, I don't think it would have affected me either. I have basic services like electricity and water on my own. I don't depend on external supplies, the power grid, or the city's pumping system or anything like that. And about food, I have chickens, I have goats, I have a pig that I'll be butchering soon. So I have meat, I have milk, I have eggs. I also have a garden where I grow the vegetables I'm going to eat. And with that, I don't need anything else.
So let's see, literally, could you not leave that small farm and have everything you need for life?
That's the mission. In fact, I have no experience. I'm not someone who has lived like this all my life. But since I was 21, I decided to start a life in the city with no experience at all. For the life I live now, I didn't know how to milk a cow, make cheese, or raise chickens. But I've learned it all from scratch. So that's the mission, not to need anything from outside. I know it takes time at first. You have to wait for the animals to grow and provide food. For example, goats need to get pregnant to give milk, which I process, but that's the mission. Now, for example, when I slaughter the pig, I'll have meat for a long time. The chickens give you food every day. Well, actually, for you, Jota, I brought eggs from my chickens without identification. These aren't registered at all.
Let's see one. So these are eggs made by you?
By me? No, by the chicken. Haha.
Let's see, damn, it's true. I just pictured you laying the eggs yourself, right? So are these your chickens that lay these?
The one you're touching is a duck egg, and this bigger one is also from a female duck.
And it's also harder, right?
Yes, when you crack it, you'll see the shell is extremely hard.
This is a duck egg and oh damn, man.
Do you also have a blue egg there?
This one too, right? Yeah.
What about this one? It's a chicken egg with a blue yolk. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Haha, damn.
You just dumped me, didn't you? What a jerk. Thanks, man. This is an incredible gift.
You won't find this anywhere else. An egg with no identification or number.
What's the difference, for example, between these eggs and the ones you buy at the supermarket?
First, the taste and the nutrients in the egg. They're completely different because, for example, my hens, which I show a lot on social media, are free. I don't keep them anywhere, even if the bird flu comes or all those things they say to control us. So, my hens are free. They're always eating worms, eating grass, scratching in the dirt, and my hens are out in the sun all day. They go in, lay their eggs, and come out. So they hardly know what feed is, and they eat what the land gives them. And it practically costs nothing. And these eggs are amazing. You take one of these eggs, and then you can cook it. Here's a test. You can pinch the yolk, and you'll be left here holding the yolk. I'm not exaggerating, okay? And well, for example, the egg white is much more viscous and it's much more attached to the yolk because it's much fresher than supermarket eggs. If you crack a supermarket egg into the pan, the white breaks and spreads everywhere. Here, the white is super dense, much better. Plus, all the nutrients it has are much better. Damn.
Well, what a gift you've given me. Really, I appreciate it so much, you know? Plus, now, with all the protein I have to take, this is amazing. It's perfect for me.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And besides, with the flavor these eggs have, that's also a pretty big problem you've caused me. Because once you try these eggs, you can't buy the ones from the supermarket anymore.
Not even the ones who lay eggs.
You're welcome. No, impossible. Let's see. Also, that thing about organic eggs and free-range eggs. Right now, with the issue of avian flu, for example, they tell you on one hand that you have to confine the hens and that no hen can be outdoors. But then they keep selling you free-range eggs and organic eggs that, in theory, are raised outdoors. How is it possible that they sell you free-range eggs and free hens? If, on the other hand, they're telling you that you have to keep them confined. That's not true right now either. There's an inconsistency there. Yes.
Because the egg is a complete superfood. It's one of the best foods there is. Man, IKER, damn, I'm really happy about this gift. You have no idea. For me, it's one of the best gifts I've ever received. This is amazing. I want to talk a little bit about you. How do you become this self-sufficient person? What is it that clicks for you? And most importantly, how do you get started?
Okay, the first thing for me to change my mindset and become self-sufficient is to realize, above all, how dependent we are in the city, no matter how much money you have. Then there is more and more control, more restrictions. The whole 15-minute city thing, facial recognition control, all of that leads to us losing individual freedoms. And that has nothing to do with money. You may have plenty of money in the city, but your electricity and water still rely on a supply. Even if you can pay, they control when you have electricity and when it's taken away. When it happens with a blackout or also with the issue of food. One day they say bird flu, the price of eggs goes up, swine fever, the price of pork goes up, or when there won't be eggs, or when there won't be pork. This is, in the end, they slowly boil the frog until it ends up dying without realizing it. And as I was saying, self-sufficiency isn't about a prepper mentality of grabbing a backpack and leaving when a war comes. It's about doing these things every day to become freer. So for me, the number one step, and this was really important, what made me change my mindset, was realizing that the city was very dependent and that it didn't matter how much money I had. That I was always going to be here following rules and doing what was imposed on me, and maybe it didn't make sense to me, but I had to accept it anyway because I didn't have another choice. And the most important thing for me isn't, for example, that you have some chickens and save a little money, or having solar panels or not having them. For me, money isn't the most important thing. For me, the most important thing is the freedom to say, hey, I don't care if there's a catastrophe or whatever, because I know I have eggs there, or I know I have milk, or I know I have a pig, I have meat, I have a pantry full of cured meats. I don't care if that happens, or if there's a blackout, I don't care, because I have solar panels. I don't care about the money I save. What matters more to me is the freedom and sovereignty I have to decide when I have what, and when I choose to turn on the washing machine or do whatever I want. But because I want to, not because it's imposed on me. And that's the most important thing I get from living in this self-sufficient way.
It's absolutely admirable, and I truly agree with you completely. I want to ask you questions about the process of buying your place. Did you say that you weren't born living this way? So, tell us a little about the process of being able to buy the animals, being able to buy the land for the animals to live on. How many hectares do you have? Tell us a little more in detail. That whole process to become who you are today.
Okay, first of all, for me, the most important thing and what has allowed me to have this lifestyle, it's having a job that is remote, not having to depend on going to a physical place for 8 hours. And I also started a business. I have an online business with my twin brother. So for me, that's the most important thing because I have freedom of time more than money. I don't care about the time because I organize my day one way or another. And so I say, at this time I'm going to work, at this time I'm going to be with the animals or doing things. With free time, you can do more, learn, and notice your dependencies. If you're stuck working 8 hours on the hamster wheel, it's harder to realize this. And then you don't have time to think about what's happening around you. You're never going to wake up, you're never going to get out of the matrix, like you say, right? For me, the most important thing is to have that. A way to earn money that doesn't depend on going to the city for 8 hours. Also, to have time for yourself and to spend more time at home on what you're going to build. When I lived in the city, I was already working remotely, and I moved to the countryside using the income from that. So when I was already in the countryside, I was already spending the same amount of time working. And then all that time I had was to build what? Well, to build a chicken coop, to figure out how I'm going to have, for example, the goats, or how I'm going to organize myself. The matter of milking, processing the milk, all those things. I can afford it because I have time. It's not so much about the money. Well, yes, money is necessary at the beginning, because in the end, if you don't have this as a family tradition and it's not something you've inherited, you're always going to have to buy animals, but that's an initial investment. You're going to have to buy, for example, solar panels, but that's an initial investment. Then it's something you do at the beginning as a broader base for the investment, but in the end, it pays off. And when you pay for solar panels, in the end, they last you a long time. When you buy some chickens, in the end, you won't have to buy chickens again for a long time. You incubate them or do all those things, and in the end, with that initial investment, you can get a return, you can get those foods or those benefits you get almost endlessly. It's the same with a garden. Maybe in the first year you have to buy seeds, or maybe someone gives them to you. You plant a garden, and the next year you have a lot of seeds. You already have a supply, plant it yourself, and use your well water. So you don't need to buy anything else. And it's not something idyllic, it's simply how it is to go back to feeding yourself like people used to do before. Did your grandmother or my grandmother always live in a town or a village? And at most, what we would like is to go back to bartering like people used to do before. For example, I have oil and you have almonds, so I trade my oil for your almonds, for example, right? And that way you don't need that cycle of working, earning money, spending it on buying things instead of time, money, buying. I'm going to have to spend my time getting that resource, for example, getting food. I prefer, next week I'm going to do the pig slaughter. I prefer to spend 2 days working so I can have a lot of meat for months, even a year. I prefer to do that. I prefer to spend my time getting my food rather than spending my time working and then using that money to buy food separately. It's more efficient. And besides, when you work, most of the time you're not working for yourself, but for the interest of others. So
It's incredible, and I find it amazing, honestly. It's something to aspire to, you know? Now, I want to go a little more into detail. How much money are we talking about that you've had to invest approximately to be in the position you're in today? Well,
I could tell you that, but it's not something that's really useful. I'll tell you more or less approximately. It's around tens of thousands of euros. You have to spend at the beginning on the land and all that, but it depends. There are people who buy a rural plot and a container house, and then the land costs them much less. There are people who, I don't know, already have land they've inherited, so they already have that. There are people who don't want so many animals, so then you spend less. Some people avoid solar panels because they don't invest in them. Ultimately, your desired level of independence is up to you. I think the money you're going to spend, if you want to be as self-sufficient as possible, and that's fine.
and at the same time, then you save all that. You know, it's an investment.
It's not just an expense, it's an investment.
So I wonder, when was the last time you were in a supermarket?
And what about me? Now, for example, when it comes to buying things like eggs, milk, vegetables, I don't buy much. But I've produced all of that myself up until now. As for now, for example, meat, like I said before, it's a process. For example, now the topic of meat. Now, I do have to buy some things because this doesn't happen overnight. And it's been a year. People are amazed by everything. I've achieved it in a year, but it's only been a year. For example, after I slaughter the pig, I'll have meat for a long time and won't need to buy any now. I have more milk now, and soon the baby goats will grow up, so I'll have meat, or if it's a female, then I'll have another female to breed, so more milk, more meat. It's always a cycle, a pattern that's the same with chickens. You have a chicken, it gives you eggs every day. In Cuba, it gives you either hens or chicks, and that chicken will give again. Either hens or chicks, and the chicks, well, you can eat them. It's a pattern where you do invest at the beginning, but in the end, it gives you back infinitely more than what you put in. Really?
I get it. I really liked your point about it being more than just money. What you need is time.
Absolutely.
And that's true. People often overlook that our most valuable resource is time. So, yeah, honestly, I'm amazed. I would say I'm really interested. I want to know within your self-sufficiency, do you live with all the normal comforts that a person has, for example, here in Madrid? I mean, do you have your washing machine? Do you have a dryer? Do you have your kitchen, or is it a gas kitchen? Explain briefly how it works, how much energy you use, and whether you have lights or a television.
Let's see, I don't have a television. Not because I can't, but because I don't want to. It's just that I don't want to have a television. But for example, I can have a completely normal house with lights, with a washing machine, with refrigerators. I don't have a PlayStation either, but I could have one.
But let me ask you, can you be self-sufficient and still have your PlayStation just like that, according to your lifestyle? If that's what I do, this question is to find out to what extent solar panels can provide for you, if you can be completely self-sufficient without access to the electrical grid. That really impressed me exactly.
Exactly. For me, it's mandatory to rely only on solar panels because I don't have an electrical grid, I don't have any supply from the grid, I'm lost in the mountains. So the solar panels, depending on how you size the installation, I also had to learn how to install solar panels without having any idea about it because I was scammed. I had to learn to do it all by myself. And in the end, if you install some solar panels, the first thing, the most important thing so they don't fail you is to calculate your consumption. So you know what you use and can produce it with solar panels. Exactly. And the panels are just like any other, except instead of getting electricity from the grid, it comes from solar panels. And it depends on how many panels you want to have. The inverter you want to install and the batteries. That's more related to the level of autonomy you want to have and so on. But for example, I have solar panels and they work all year round. And in winter, when there are fewer hours of sunlight and the sun is lower, I still have electricity without any problem.
You haven't lost power,
right? I only lost it once when someone scammed me and did a bad job, so I had to fix it. Some people with solar panels don't get enough power, but if you plan and set up correctly from the beginning, you'll avoid problems. Or there are days or weeks when the sun doesn't come out, well, the panels still charge even when it's cloudy, for example. But if you have a day or a few weeks, like I said, when it's really dark, well, maybe you can buy gasoline and have a gasoline tank to supply yourself. So if you don't have sunlight, with that you would already have that supply covered, which is electricity independently. I also have water. I have water from a well.
That's what I was going to ask you now about the water. Where does the water come from?
How do you get it out of a well? With a water pump. And from there, well, from there too. Now I pump it into a water reservoir where I store it, and then from there to the house. It's simple.
It's a regular shower?
Just like that. I turn on the faucet and there's water, and I flip the switch and there's light. I use the washing machine. Absolutely everything is normal.
This totally outside the system.
Totally.
It's just that in the times we live in today, what you do seems like magic.
Yes, but it's nothing further from reality. Previously, there also weren't many comforts. I could have things like television and video, but I don't want them. It's just, yes, but could you? Yes, I could. I could have a television, I could have a PlayStation if I wanted, but the truth is I don't want them. But I also think the water issue is the same. I have it outside, independent. I don't have a well. I send it to a tank, and from there to the house. I have those comforts of turning on the tap and having water, all without those utilities you get in the city, and none of this is crazy either. Before, people also used to drink well water, and those comforts like having electricity or a phone didn't exist before, but they weren't needed back then either. Before, people worked in the fields and weren't in front of a screen, or it wasn't necessary for them to have all those comforts or things that we need now. But they're not really needs, they're just something imposed. And it's not necessary for you to watch television. In fact, it's better if you don't. And also, everything I realized living this way is that everything is in balance. The animals, when they grow, when you sacrifice them, the meat they give you afterwards. For example, the births of ruminants happen in the spring when the grass is at its best, so that goats or ruminants eat the best pasture to give more milk. All of that is perfectly designed. The issue of firewood too, before there was no gas, before there were no electric stoves, people cook the same way. Cutting firewood, that's the most normal and common thing. Now we see that cooking with firewood, and we say, wow, this is a luxury, right? A barbecue with firewood. Now also with charcoal and all those things, that's how people used to live. I'm not going to tell you it's something complicated, it's simply going back. And I think that's what we should do, and what I'm starting to do.
I want to ask you, give me more details about the well. I want to know, did you make the well yourself?
No, it was already made on the property. And about the well, you just put a water pump with a hose that can go directly to the house if you have it nearby, or well, if you have a pump with too much power, and that pushes the water, it sucks and pushes, and that's a real lifesaver. Well, you do have to install the plumbing, but that's also something very simple, and just put in faucets and that's it. It's not that complicated. And it's something we can also do ourselves.
Okay, so you have the property with the well, but you didn't build it. They just dug it, found water, and now it's unlimited and doesn't run out.
It keeps refilling itself, so to speak. When you take water out, it refills, it keeps refilling. The water comes from the ground, and in the end, it
is pure and clean.
Look, exactly. That's another important thing. The water would be pure if humans weren't around, getting their hands in and doing, for example, monoculture. Around where I live, there's a lot of monoculture. So monoculture means pesticides, it means herbicides, it means a lot of chemicals that are put into the soil. It moves from soil to water, then my well, and finally my house. So it's very important that when we live in an environment like this, in nature, even if we think it's something idyllic, drinking well water, we need to know exactly where it comes from. Because if it's surrounded by monoculture using heavy pesticides, those chemicals enter the water, making it undrinkable. I also had to do a study. I had to learn how to filter it, how to treat it so that it's safe to drink.
Or that the water is already safe to drink. But was it hard for you?
Yes, of course, especially for me, realizing what was going wrong. Because in the tests, they don't measure all the parameters to tell if there are pesticides or not. It must be very specific. You can analyze water for parameters like conductivity, but detecting a specific pesticide is a different issue. That's very specific, so you have to request it separately. I kept wondering what could be wrong with the water. It made me feel bad. Is something wrong with it? So when I realized I was surrounded by monoculture, I thought it has to be this. Sure enough, I analyzed it and it was.
How do you avoid that problem? How do you remove those pesticides that are so harmful from the water?
Generally with a nanofiltration machine. It blocks pesticides and other substances, keeping the water pure and remineralizing it. I also bought this machine. It's the same, you only have to buy it once and then you rarely need to buy it again. Maybe you just have to buy a filter every now and then. But yeah, you can have water that isn't drinkable, and if you use this, well, it always has to be potable, right? But for example, if it has this problem with pesticides and it goes through a reverse osmosis machine, reverse osmosis doesn't completely remove the pesticides either. But with a nanofiltration machine like that, you have it ready and you already have water. Even if the water is contaminated, you solve it with another device, right?
Totally. It really is amazing, you know, everything you've achieved, and especially in just 1 year, that has impressed me even more. And actually, I'm really hungry right now. I'm fasting and I'm looking at those eggs over there and I really want to eat them. Incredible. But now let's talk. You mentioned a diet that's practically animal-based. Yes.
Totally. I mean,
you can't be self-sufficient and vegan? That's a good question.
I want to ask you, is it impossible? How?
It's impossible.
You can only be vegan if you live next to a supermarket. Why? Because you by yourself, in a self-sufficient way, couldn't get those cereals, those legumes. Well, let's not even talk about tofu. Whoever grows soybeans processes it. It's just impossible. What you have most accessible and throughout the whole year are animals. Chickens give you eggs every day, ducks too. It depends on the breed. If you kill a pig, you have meat for a year. If you hunt, you also have meat for a long time. And alone, by yourself, you don't need an entire industry to get it. So veganism, besides not being self-sufficient, is a way to control the population. Why? Because if they're telling us that animal-based foods, that eggs have cholesterol, that meat gives you cancer, all those things, or that milk is bad so they can sell you soy milk, all of that is, in the end, propaganda. It's scientific propaganda, supposedly backed by studies, but then you see them later. Those funded are supported by pharmaceutical companies and businesses that benefit from the study results. And in the end, the biggest study in history is, well, the evolution in human history, which has always worked. Exactly. People ate what they had around them. They didn't eat soy from Canada. They just couldn't.
Cereals or Kellogg's cereals?
Exactly. Cereals, but besides that, these ultra-processed cereals, I'm not even talking about those, but cereals made from flour, I mean from wheat, from corn, all these things. Corn you can plant, and if you plant it, that's fine. But a person who is 100% self-sufficient and vegan, I don't know any. If there's someone who is vegan and self-sufficient, let them come and show me. But that's what veganism is. It's backed by people who want to control the population and who benefit from the results of those studies. And also, when they say that meat is bad, it's to sell you synthetic meat, vegan products, which coincidentally are made from cereals or monoculture crops. The person telling you that meat and eggs are bad is actually the owner of those products. So in the end, it's a conflict of interest. The same person who's telling me that eggs are bad. He's selling me vegan products and he owns the raw materials those vegan products are made from. So I don't buy it. So all those scientists who keep saying that meat, eggs, and milk and all those things, in the end, are they falling into those traps of the system? For me, it's pure hard propaganda. And what they want is to control it. Because if you take away a person's meat, take away their eggs, take away their milk, that person has to buy whatever they have to eat.
I want to make a point about milk.
Milk is bad.
That's been said lately. The milk we buy at the supermarket is not the milk you drink.
No, I drink it directly, just as it comes from the goat.
That's unpasteurized. And tell me a little bit.
Look, all this about milk is also controlled behind the scenes because in the end, the one who made this comes from somewhere. The idea that raw milk, the milk that has always been consumed, is bad. After industrialization in New York, what happened was that there was an outbreak where a lot of children died from consuming raw milk. But they don't tell you that, do they? The important detail is that the cows they used for milk were fed with waste from whiskey distillation. So that's what they were eating. They were feeding them, they were getting the cows drunk, and they were giving you milk that wasn't good, and on top of that, they were adulterating it. They added flour, they added molasses, they added plaster, they added water. The water supply there wasn't drinkable, so they added water to make it look like milk. Really? Because what the cows produced was bad, and all of that was then sold to people. Of course, people consumed it like they always have. But the problem is, it killed a lot of children. The issue wasn't the milk itself, but what they did to it.
What they had done to the cow?
With the cow, and then by adulterating the milk. And everything. It's swill milk if you want to look it up. What's it called? Swill milk, swill milk? Yes, you can look it up and see it. That's how it was. Besides all this, what happened? The perfect excuse for what? Mandatory pasteurization of milk? What happens there? The local farmers who couldn't handle that pasteurizing machine couldn't sell milk. You already get rid of people, of the farmers, of people just like you and me. Out of the market, you have a monopoly. A monopoly by whom? By big companies and large corporations that could afford those machines? So, are you taking out of the market all those people who would do local trade and promote more of that circular economy? We're always used to having to go buy pasteurized milk in a carton and so on, besides the fact that the properties of that pasteurized, ultra-pasteurized milk are lost because everything gets destroyed with pasteurization. Enzymes. That's why so many people have trouble digesting milk. Because raw milk has enzymes that help you digest it. It has lactase, which helps you digest it. The lactose also has live microbes that help you digest it. It has intact proteins, immunoglobulins that are very good for the immune system. All of that is intact. Factory milk, if you pasteurize it, you're already taking all of that away. And that's why freshly milked milk has nothing to do with supermarket milk. That's just white water. It has a different name and is a completely different product from pasteurized milk.
Fresh milk is nothing like what they sell us?
That's not real milk. When you taste fresh milk, like fresh eggs, then try the supermarket kind, you realize it's not the same. They always make it weaker too.
What are the main differences? Can you summarize them?
Yes, the fat in milk. If the animals are free range and eat grass, you can really notice. The fat is richer and there's more of it. Then, besides being pasteurized, it's also homogenized, which means the fat, anyone watching us will know that when you milk a cow or go to someone who has drunk freshly milked milk, when you heat the milk a little or when you let it sit, the cream stays on top. The cream is the thickest layer, the one with the most fat, the fattiest layer of the milk, and that rises because of density. So when you homogenize the milk, what you're doing is making those fat particles, which would naturally rise to the top of the container, so small that they mix with the water particles in the milk. That also affects the fatty acids in the milk, making them less easily absorbed and so on. So all that about pasteurization besides the control, kills the milk and leaves you with a dead drink. That's also why so many people are intolerant and why there are other issues. Because in the end, they're not used to drinking real milk, and if they drank real milk, I think it would solve it for them. Most people...
Very serious question. What do I want to do to you? Since you've been living this lifestyle, have you noticed a significant physical, health, or energy change compared to who IKER was before?
Yes, absolutely. Above all, being more connected with nature and having those moments of being more present in the moment really enriches you a lot. I mean, it's about nutrition and being more connected with nature, and it's also about getting away from all that frenzy we have in the city. having your phone and a screen, all those stimuli, that also overwhelms your mind, and being connected with your body as well. I mean, all of that has a lot to do with nutrition and also being connected with circadian rhythms. Expose yourself to the sun without any protection or sunscreen. That's how you should receive sunlight. So that has given me great health. I don't get sick, I just don't get sick. That's how it is. Before moving to the countryside, I thought about eating what I raised. But once you actually do it, you really notice the difference. Some eggs, freshly milked milk, is just wonderful, and that's pure health. Don't you think so too? The other day I had goat colostrum, which is the first milk that the goat gives. Well, the goat and any mammal, the very first milk they produce. That milk is very concentrated in fat and also has a lot of proteins for the immune system. It's amazing. I mean, it gives you an incredible boost, and I had that the other day. It's amazing. It's amazing what colostrum is, and it makes you strong. Really strong. Yes, no, yes, yes. Colostrum is incredible.
And I want to ask you something. You already have a considerable community. You've already reached more than 100,000 followers on Instagram. I came across if I had seen your content earlier, I would have followed you sooner. It's incredible. Honestly, I admire you a lot. Now let's talk a little about who are usually the people who criticize your lifestyle the most.
Look, there are two people. First, vegans tell me I should eat differently. They see it as better. But when I eat animals, they ask, can't you eat without animals? And then, well, then I can't be self-sufficient. That's the first thing. And then there are other people who already label me as a public health hazard. For maybe drinking freshly milked milk, there are a lot of people who tell me I'm a danger for drinking milk, so I have to boil it or whatever. And I'm like, come on, that's forbidden, because that's another thing. You can't buy milk from a nearby shepherd. You can't buy freshly milked milk.
And you can't buy these eggs either.
Eggs without an identification are illegal, and you can't have a chicken without registering it first.
Are you committing a crime?
Yes, yes, yes. Come and arrest me. I have chickens without an identification. I mean, this is also something that people get very confused about. People think that the law has to be good, but just because something is legal doesn't mean it's 100% moral.
I always say that's serious because slavery
was legal.
Legality doesn't equal morality. Abortion is legal, but not necessarily moral.
Exactly, exactly. So don't come and tell me that drinking milk is wrong just because the law says so. So by that same logic, alcohol causes a lot of diseases. It causes addiction, fatty liver, and it's linked to a lot of illnesses. Why don't they ban that? If it's bad, then tobacco should be banned too. Tobacco smoking kills you directly. It's legal, but it's not moral. There are a lot of things like that which don't make sense. Or selling ultra-processed foods and candy to kids. That's legal, but it's not moral.
I want to ask you a question. Why do you think it's illegal to have chickens? Why do you think it's illegal to sell unpasteurized milk? Why do you think they're always attacking animal fat? Why do you think the lifestyle you promote is considered a danger to modern society?
Because it's not profitable. People aren't encouraged to be sovereign with their food or to have their own solar panels disconnected from the grid. Having a water well and not needing to buy water isn't profitable for me. We need to consider this, as it really opens your mind. When you realize that everything is about interests, that everything is about money, you realize that a person who lives in that freedom of producing their own food, having their own garden, having their own animals, having their own solar panels is not profitable. Is that why they demonize it, impose restrictions, and spread propaganda? Because there are two ways they have to fight against this sovereignty. The first is by imposing laws, and the second is with propaganda. What you do is get rid of a lot of weak-minded people who don't question things and who believe the official narrative. With that propaganda, you get rid of a bunch of people. But just in case, if there are people who still want to think outside the box, like the people who watch your podcast or are red-pilled and want to get out of the box, you put a lot of legal obstacles in their way so they can't achieve it, you know? So it goes two ways, propaganda and administrative legal matters. It's all meant to strip our sovereignty, make us dependent, force us to buy everything from abroad and fully control us.
IKER, let's go a little deeper into this. Do you think it's just about the money? I mean, do you think this whole setup, all this propaganda, this entire system that attacks so harshly, a lifestyle like the one you promote, is it solely and exclusively because you're not a business?
Partly yes, and partly it's about power, the power those people, that elite, get by controlling more of the population. I don't think they need money, but having it lets them control you. So when they start using those strategies, In the end, whether through propaganda or another method, they already control you. So with that control, they gain more power because you can manipulate the masses. So with that, well, it's not like they lack money. I don't think they need more money, but it's simply that they can control more people. So besides money, I also think there's a growing power and desire to control and cover more. It's simply straightforward, but it's a lot.
Yes, but for example, the topic of veganism, the war against fat, the war, I don't know, against all natural foods. In fact, nowadays, as you mentioned very well, people are forbidden from having their own chickens. And the truth is that there is no scientific basis to justify that this is the case. So, what I really think is that what they're actually looking for is a society of sick people.
Exactly. For example, it doesn't make sense with the topic you mentioned, the issue with chickens, which has no scientific basis and so on. Also, for example, with the issue of avian flu, what happens? They tell you that chickens have to be registered because of an avian flu outbreak so that they have them counted. And what if it's something where they say they're concerned for your well-being and they just kill them, just like that? And the solution to cure or prevent that flu is to keep the chickens locked up in the coop. When they're locked up, what happens? First of all, they don't get sunlight, which is essential and fundamental for their health. Secondly, when the chickens are kept locked up, their stress increases. Stress is the biggest immunosuppressant. And then when you have the chickens locked up, they are in closer contact with each other. They get sicker because of the lack of sunlight and also because they don't eat the bugs and natural food they would eat when they're free. The second thing is when they are stressed. So those three things, what they do is that measure they want to take to prevent an avian flu outbreak, what it's actually doing is the complete opposite. It doesn't make sense. So even if they tell you it's better because the authorities say so, in reality, that's not the case. People know that chickens that are free range are going to be much healthier than those kept in a cage. That's obvious. But of course, they've made us believe otherwise, and we have to challenge that and teach people, hey, free range chickens are healthier and stronger than those kept in factory farms, right?
Any particular reason why?
Why you.
Should the chickens stay locked up because of bird flu? Yes, due to the flu.
Is that it?
That, I mean, it's a problem they've created just to sell you a solution that only benefits the usual people.
Exactly, virus. Then with that virus comes lockdown. With that lockdown comes illness. And illness, well, you cause a lot of harm. And well, that's the business too. Then they'll come out with vaccines. And that's it. People will go vaccinate the chickens or give them, well, medicine or whatever. And that's how it'll be.
Did what happened in 2020 affect you in any way to be where you are today?
Partly, I mean, look, I'm 22 years old and I caught it.
Well, I admire you even more.
So I caught it, all of that. I mean, I was studying. I studied in a lab, a clinical lab. I was there with all of that. So for me, looking back, I do see it, that everything they did was super blatant. Also, I remember all the things they used to say back then when I was studying. So of course, I was really involved in all of that. Of course, I was just a kid. I was 16 years old, but I was really caught up in all that machinery, in how things were said. And now looking back, I remember it and I think, damn, this was super blatant, you know? Everything was different with COVID, different, there's a polymerase chain reaction, but no, with COVID, it's reverse transcription. Polymerase chain reaction, which is something else, I don't know, different. Everything was special, and in the end, I don't think what they did to us at that time was really a good thing either. Wow.
Did you end up getting the shot?
Because of my lack of knowledge, yes. I mean, I'm not ashamed or anything. It's just that thanks to those actions, I'm the person I am now and I don't regret it. I don't torture myself. I just deal with it. And at that moment, with the knowledge I had, that's what I did.
Yes, no, it's understandable.
16 years old, I'm not justifying myself or anything, but simply, I also, in part, am grateful for that. Because thanks to what they did, a lot of people have woken up. So you always have to look at the bright side of things, and you shouldn't torture yourself for what you did either. In the end, you have to accept it and you have to say, hey, this happened, I made this mistake. It's not about regret, it's about learning. Regret just torments you. I shouldn't have done it, making you feel worse. Instead, accept it. Hey, I did this. What can I do now to fix it? Hey, well, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to be more connected with nature, more like that, all of that. I'm going to be grounded, doing grounding, all those things. That's it. Focus on what you can do now, not what you did. Stay present and work to fix things instead of dwelling on the past. This applies to the vaccines and everything else.
That's literally how it is. The good side of everything that happened in 2020, I think Jota wouldn't exist if I hadn't seen so many lies, so much inconsistency, so much tension, so much psychological terror they put on the population. I said it on the Wall Street Wolverine podcast. I have it pinned on my profile. The pandemic showed that the media controls people so much that if it had come out on television in prime time, people wouldn't have caught that disease. Sticking a finger up their butt and hopping on one leg. At 12 noon, we would have seen a lot of people doing it. It's absolutely outrageous. They've completely wiped out critical thinking.
IKER is what they mainly target, so that we don't have that critical thinking. People like you who open the minds of so many others, that's what they're not interested in, because above all else. And the same goes for self-sufficiency. You have to wake up here and with people like you. They are people who take those steps and show how the system really is. And all that network of dependency, of patronage, that in the end all of this is driven by interests, and that nothing is done in vain, and that they don't do it for our own good. I think that's the first step, and they do it. It's a very good job. Well,
man, I really appreciate it, and I think your work is even more necessary than mine, because one thing is to raise awareness, and another thing is literally to get out of the system that oppresses us. And sometimes when people ask me, are you controlled opposition? I kind of agree with them, and I'll explain why. Because nobody controls me, in the sense that nobody pays me to cause certain emotions or to push certain lines of thought. That's not how it works, but ultimately I depend on digital platforms controlled by certain people. These certain people know perfectly well that if I cross certain lines, I lose my livelihood. And to avoid losing my livelihood, I'm the one who censors myself and regulates my own message, because I'm afraid of not being able to make a living from what I'm passionate about. So yes, it's true, it is dangerous, and honestly, the whole digital world really makes me question certain things.
Here's the conclusion I've reached, since people mention this to me often. You're not in the system, but you have social media. And look, with the allegory, for example, of Plato's cave, this, for example, if I want, or you want to show what the truth really is, so to speak, which would be to go outside the cave to tell the people who are inside. You have to go down, you have to enter the cave, you have to go into the cave, you really have to accept it. And it's a task of saying, hey, I'm going to enter the cave, I'm going to play, I'm going to be with those rules that are set in the cave. But to help people get out, that's how it is. That's how I see it. You're inside, but you're following their rules so that people come out and wake up and reflect and achieve. Well, that's it. To see the sun, the truth, and so on. But to get people out, you have to, there's no other way than going in. If you don't go into the cave, you can't get them out. So I've also had that reflection of saying, what if I'm inside? Yes, that I'm inside. Yes, that I'm inside. And I don't deny it. It's just me. For me, it's worth being inside to get people out. And me, being aware that the cave is not reality. Reality is what's outside. So even if I have to go down there and be with those rules and maybe have a disadvantage for myself, maybe to wake up more people, I accept it and I do it. And in the end, that's the reason I'm on social media, because if I didn't want to, if I just wanted to be looking at the sun, so to speak, going back to the allegory of the cave, if I just wanted to see the truth, I wouldn't go into the cave. But for me, the duty of a person who has seen the truth is to tell people that the truth exists and that this is a lie. And that's why I believe in social media.
And you don't feel alone, man. You don't feel alone. I mentioned it to you before. I thought there was a change, that people were becoming aware. But recent events, very recent ones, show that people are idiots. Even those who might be more aligned with our values and our principles. People see the world as a war between good and evil. And truly, there's the war of truth against lies. There's the war of sovereignty against globalism. And both sides, the right and the left, are part of the lie. That's the reality. I mean, nowadays there are conflicts in the Middle East and people analyze them in such a childish, absurd way. Like, yes, democratize Iran, yes. And you think, damn, look, things are much more complicated than they seem.
What exactly is democracy? Is it just what people say or something written on paper? I mean, in the end, people think that just because they can vote, they're free just by voting. Ruben Gisbert has attended your debates and explains it well. Just because something is labeled democratic on paper doesn't mean it's true democracy. That has to be based on facts, not on something that's written on paper, not on what someone says, but on what they do. So we have to focus on that, on what they do, not on what they're going to say. Yes, I'm going to bring democracy to such a country. Yes, but then you do it. You don't do it for that reason. You do it, which you don't even do, but you also do it for your own interests. What happens is that you sell people the idea that you're doing it for their own good, which is something different from what they usually do. Well, imperialism and so on, as we talked about before.
That's the point. We Europeans think we're the center of the world, and I believe we are right now. The West has such a fierce control that I don't think it has any comparison anywhere else. I don't even know if in China, I would have to look into it because China also has a lot of control over its population. Are there laws that prevent people from having chickens? I would like to know.
No, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal. When I also made a video where I said that it's easier to have a chicken. I mean, it's easier to have drugs for personal use than to have a chicken. And like that, you have, well, I come from a neighborhood where I've seen everything, you know? And besides, they're all involved in it and they're interested in making that business work. If the police stop you and it's for personal use, nothing happens. But if they catch you with a chicken, I mean, not that it happens or can't happen. What the law says is that they fine you, 3,000 euros minimum if they catch you, and for having drugs. Which in theory, that's what we were saying before, morality and legality. I'm not saying I'm the one to forbid things, but it's not for our good. It's to control us. You need to differentiate and stay consistent, especially regarding inconsistencies in their argument. Simply by working with their own statements, I mean, with what they say themselves, just by playing with that, you can already see the inconsistencies. So you say, okay, just with those same premises they give us, we can come to the conclusion that it's false. They look out for our well-being, for having chickens. So why don't they look out for our well-being, for example, by allowing tobacco? Just as an example, I don't want to ban tobacco, I don't care. I'm not the one to ban it, but that's how it is.
I want to ask you a question. How did your environment react when you decided to live a self-sufficient life and started with all of this?
What do you mean I'm crazy? Partly, yes.
Let's see how it has.
I told you before, I don't come from a family like that. I've never been in the countryside or worked with animals or in a garden. My parents also used to ask, where are you coming from? Because it's not like I'm on a little plot that's nearby. No, I'm lost, they say. But how are you going? What are you going to do here? And so on. But you've never done these things before? And because I want to, I'm going to do it because it's my will. And that prevails above everything else. So a little bit of fear, but also not really. I mean, what they said doesn't affect me. Ultimately, I see it as a reflection. For example, Jota, maybe you look at me and think I wouldn't do what he does, or it must be scary to live so far away. I'm just making this up. That's not something you say to me, but to yourself. Because you would say, Jota, couldn't live, or my mother, I couldn't live so isolated and all that. I would need to have other things nearby. You see yourself in others because you watch their actions. So you think, if I were them, I'd do the same. And then you say, you're crazy, you know? That's just how it is. A reflection that's not right or wrong. I appreciate it because it offers a different perspective and you need to know how to listen. And there are also times when it's good for you to know what a mother or a father would do in your situation, something you haven't thought of yourself. But in general, it was that a bit of uncertainty, yes.
And this was at the beginning, and today, how do you see it?
They come every weekend.
They go every weekend?
Sure, I mean, it's happening more now. My parents didn't have that, nor did my twin brother and I, right? My twin brother is just like me, with long hair, much deeper. The things he says, because he goes further. But they used to say to us is just that the kids are, because we're the youngest siblings of 5, okay? And they would say, the kids are crazy, the kids are crazy. But now they see it, now they want to come home. They're with, for example, the little goats. My mothers are so excited about them. It's amazing. And in the end, for me, seeing my parents there with nature, or seeing my older brother, my sister, my siblings who are there, we get together in the middle of nature. For me, that's already a win. I don't care about the money I make, man. I mean, on Monday, I'm going to do the slaughter, man. I'm going to gather my family. And it's something, man, that fills my heart, man.
Second, about the slaughter, how are you going to do it? And above all, who's going to make the sausage for you? Who's going to do it?
Look, this is also very important. Look, I have no experience at all. Well, like nothing. I didn't do any of it from scratch. Well, imagine that a pig, you know, just before coming in here, the person told me, because I'm going to bring a family who have always done it the traditional way, and they're going to teach me how to do it. Well, a member of the family who was going to like do it, you know, kill it, won't be able to come because of work and all that. So I'm going to take on the responsibility of sacrificing the animal. I'm going to have to do it myself. And when he told me, I said, damn, but then I said, I'm going to do it. I'll have the guts. And even though I have no experience, I'm going to do it.
It's your first time killing an animal to eat it.
No, look, chickens, goat, that kind of thing, yes, but such a big animal, a pig, that's a beast, you know? A pig can weigh, well, mine, 6 months old, a little over 100.
What does the pig eat?
My pig eats acorns because I have a lot of home oaks. It eats carob, it eats grass, it eats roots, and I also give it feed. Because in the end, ideally, you would let the pig roam free and it would find its own food. Wild boars. A wild boar is a wild pig and it finds its own food. It doesn't know about feed. What happens? Well, I give my pig certain characteristics, a way of living. For example, the pig isn't exposed to that kind of nature. It's kind of like when a predator comes and kills you, right? So then I take better care of it. I give it certain conditions. I give it a house. I give it straw. The animal is comfortable. So since it's not in that wild nature, like an animal in the wild would be, I make it comfortable. And it's true that sometimes I have to give it feed, but anyway, it works for you. I mean, I'm going to do the math to see how much it cost me, what it has cost to raise the pig, and all the meat it's going to give me. And besides all this, just out of curiosity, you know?
Make videos about that. I want to see.
The most important thing is freedom. Like I told you before, man, having food for a whole year.
One thing is killing the pig, which
I think,
is relatively easy.
yes, well,
No, you put
a what?
it's like a piston here, of course.
Yes, man, of course. But then what about a knife?
To that,
With a knife, man, of course. This is killing the pig.
you're going to kill the pig.
With a knife, yes, me.
I'm going to watch while you perform a Thanksgiving sacrifice ritual pig.
No, that I really appreciate that a lot. And actually, I mean, I'm documenting all of this slaughter on my channel, on YouTube. Everything is documented, including the reasons, because this is deeper for me, you know, because it's something I've never done before and I want to give it the value it deserves. And I always give thanks to all the animals, to all the plants that are going to feed me. I appreciate it and I thank them. In the end, all life feeds on each other, the plants.
A circle.
It's a cycle. So when I do the slaughter, I could look the other way and say, well, I won't do it, right? I have a pig and buy meat at the supermarket, but I want to see the process and close the circle. If I eat meat, I should understand it means sacrificing and butchering the animal, removing its guts and more. What happens if I'm comfortable? I eat, I don't know, ham or chorizo or whatever from the pig, but I don't want to see how I kill it. It's not coherent, so I want to go back to that coherence, and even if it's not the most comfortable thing for me it's the most coherent, and it's what I have to do. So besides all these things about the slaughter of the pig, for example, tradition and culture have a lot to do with it. And so when we are also so far removed from those things, and they're always telling us that meat is bad, that pork is this and that it's almost impossible to get a pig, that doing a slaughter at home, how are you going to do it? And they also forbid you from doing all those things in the end, even though they're taking away your food sovereignty, which is what they want to achieve. As a consequence, they're also displacing our culture and our tradition. Yes, because they want to attack our identity, who we are as Spain or as the Hispanic tradition. All those things involve slaughtering the pig and all that. That's
who we are.
That's truly who we are. And what has led us to be
the traditions that led us here. Giving them up means we won't be here anymore. Exactly, that's the reality.
But we have our identity as a country and also as individuals. Because if we don't identify with anything, we won't know where we come from. And then what will happen? Since we don't know our roots, we can't know where we'll grow as we're uprooted.
When are you going to do the slaughter?
5 days next week.
Because I was going to tell you that I would like to go. If you invited me, I would like to go.
If you want to come.
I don't know if I'll be able to.
If you want to come.
It's just that right now, you know. I've already told you that I'm in the middle of cutting weight. I'm going to fight on May 30th. In fact, this show is going to be uploaded, and I still think, because this show is going to be uploaded before we start selling tickets. And honestly, I couldn't tell you if I have time to go there, but I swear, if you invite me to your ranch, I'd love to go, really.
I'd love it more than just being a guest. Besides, since you're getting ready for a weight cut, eating a good pork sandwich there will do you a world of good. Yeah, everything.
If you have extra, give me a lot of eggs, man. I'll buy them from you.
People often ask how much the eggs are worth, but I tell them, do you think I do this for money? No, I know.
But to contribute.
No, yes.
I think that in that sense, I'm someone who believes that if you offer me something, I'll accept it as a gift. That's fine, but if I go over there and say, hey man, can I take a box of eggs to eat? I want to give you something. It's only fair.
I appreciate it. I really do. Yes. And when I give eggs to someone, I don't give them, no.
But like this, man, isn't this what it costs you? In monetary terms, the time is the time you dedicated to it. So I totally understand that if I ask you, hey man, I want to take some from here, I don't want to eat crappy eggs anymore, I'll come see you every 2 months.
Yeah, look, I have them over here, these eggs here.
Show them.
These eggs, look, these eggs. Each one is from its, from its own father or mother. No, they're from different hens. But look, one is bigger, this one here is bigger. Yes, it's just that this one is wider, and after it, I don't know if you can see on camera, but it's blue.
Yes.
After this one, it's browner. Each egg is different, so we're used to going to the supermarket and buying eggs that are all the same. You crack them into the pan and you...
That's wild. It looks like if you throw it at the wall, it'll disappear.
Hey, I don't have a pan, but crack the shell here. When you try, send me a video and tell me about it. I'll upload it.
In fact, man, just say thank you.
It was really hard for me to crack that egg. It's amazing. That egg, duck eggs. And besides, they're purebred ducks, they're mute ducks, they don't quack, they don't make noise. Ducks usually throw a crazy party, but these ducks don't quack.
That egg is amazing, huh? It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Dude, it's like, it's hard, you know? But ours, if you touch them...
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Going back to the topic of the pig. So how do you handle the meat, man? How are you gonna, for example, separate what's for ham, what's for steaks? Of course, how are you gonna do that?
Of course, I don't have experience. Like I said, so someone is going to come and tell me, they're going to say, hey, well, for example, the ham, the shoulders, do you want to cure them? I mean, for this, or do you want to use them for sausage? Because of the climate where I live and the time of year we're in, I would rather make sausage just to be safe, because in the end, it's a lot of meat. And if I say I'm going to make a ham, oh, careful, a cured ham, well, it might turn out bad and you could ruin the whole piece. It also depends on the climate. Timing matters, and it may be a bit late for the slaughter. But since I have a freezer, I might just freeze the meat and be done with it.
You said you were late due to the pig process. Maybe you could have slaughtered it earlier.
Not because of the weight, because the weight is correct. In fact, they tell me it's perfect. With the weight it has at this age, the meat is going to be very good. Since they've eaten acorns and carob, the pig will have exceptional meat.
It also walks just like the hormone-fed pigs you buy at the supermarket. That's another thing too.
Totally. So that pig is going to be amazing. And of course, the pig is usually prepared for winter. We're in winter, but we're already at the end of winter. So it's good. The ideal weather for curing, making sausages, and all those things. It's a spring-like climate, winter, cool.
You're going to do it in spring?
Of course. So the place where I live, since I live in the mountains, it's cool, but it's very humid. So I don't know if it will balance out. I'll have to see that too. Anyway, what I've seen I can do is freeze it. Even if I make the sausages, I can freeze them. And when the weather changes, maybe I'll take them out and cure them when it's cooler. Or I've also been told I can do it in the fridge. There are different options. So yes.
Man, it's going to be a real challenge because handling meat isn't simple. There are things you need to know and things you could miss, so you have to be careful.
I'm really looking forward to it. When I heard Matter Life couldn't come, I said I'd take responsibility and do it myself. And I will.
And now, are you going to cut it up yourself? Are you going to do all of that yourself?
They're going to explain it to me. Yeah, I have to.
People will explain it to you, but you can't just stick the knife in there.
No, I've seen how it's done, but saying and doing it are different. I need to know exactly how, but I'm really looking forward to it and feel super motivated. When they told me that, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And the first slaughter I do, well, I'm going to do it myself.
Discuss all this on YouTube, especially you, Trongo. I'm interested. I wish I could gather some capital, and I would really like to buy my own land so I can do that. And I swear I'm willing, if I have enough capital, to hire someone to take care of things for me. All of that in case I really have to be in the city, in the city. I live in a small town on the outskirts of the city. Because of what I do for a living, I have to be there a lot. I can't just leave.
Well,
I could, but I'd have to leave everything behind.
Well, but you said I pay someone to take care of it for me, right? People are going to pay you for that farm, that land where you're going to have all of that. That's what people want. You're not going to tell people.
Can you send me someone from your community, someone trustworthy, someone from your community who, by the way, teaches how to be self-sufficient based on experience? He doesn't do it as a business. He does it for people who, hey, want to learn all this. Look, the thing is, you know what happens? There are two ways to learn things. The first way is by getting knocked around on your own like he had to. And the second way is by avoiding all those hits with someone who has already gone through that. And here you have IKER, and honestly, I'm amazed that he has all that and is only 22 years old. You're a freaking genius. I want you to know that. And I think your lifestyle is truly the natural way of living. All you need now are little kids running around.
There's my girlfriend, his beautiful lady.
The gentleman, and you have the ranch, you have the dream life of so many people. You are the real rebel.
Yes, that's true. And I agree about learning from someone's experience. For example, I had many problems myself. I mean, if someone like me, an IKER from a year ago, came to me and said, hey, you have to do this like this, with solar panels, you can do it yourself. I was surprised, but they said, yes, just do this, this, and that. You know how. I would have paid anything, but couldn't find help. That's why I started the national community. Many people don't know where to begin. It's like, hey, look, it's a P.
An overwhelming, exactly.
So I say it's about the experience. I'm not going to say anything because what matters is my experience and showing my authority. It's just how I live that already, or you can see it for yourself. I can't tell you what way. No. Look at how I live and how I've done it. That's it. If you want to do that, I'll show you how to do it. It's that simple. I'm not going to get into technical stuff. No, I know. For example, the topic of solar panels. I installed them and look, come to my house, there's light, it works perfectly. Animals, look, you do it, milking the goat to make cheese, butter, all that. But as they say, the proof is in the pudding. I can't tell you to keep going until the crosswalk and I'm completely still. I go and I don't say anything and I show with my actions, not with what I say.
Man, I was gonna ask you, what have been the biggest challenges you faced when starting your self-sufficiency project?
Look, I'll break it down for you, okay? The first thing would be finding the land where the girls, that's more. Although it didn't take me much time, it took a lot of effort. So for me, that's the first challenge we solved. That's the most important one, and it's the main one. If you want to be self-sufficient, you can't live in a city and expect to keep chickens on a balcony if you even have one. You need some land. So for me, that was the first challenge. Third, PAM. Of course, you go there, look for information on the internet, and they tell you, yeah, check Idealista. And I'm not advertising, but with those big real estate companies, everyone's there, so you won't find hidden gems. So there are websites or specific places that don't show up that you have to keep searching for, and based on experience, you realize you have to find them. There are private groups of people who show properties that aren't listed with big real estate companies. So that was the big step I had to solve. The first one, the second one. I would tell you, the solar panels, like I said, I got scammed. I got scammed with the solar panels. Well, it was a whole mess with the scam. And in the end, I had to learn myself, how to physically change the solar panels. Because also, something very important that I also had to solve. It's another problem that fits perfectly for me. The issue of electromagnetic pollution that the solar panels emit, the radiation. Basically, this isn't nonsense or anything like that. Simply, if someone has solar panels, just take a meter and check the edges, the electromagnetic field and the electric field present in a photovoltaic installation. You'll be amazed. That's extremely harmful to your health, having solar panels on your roof. But it's just very, very, very negative. And I had to solve it by moving the solar panels to the other end of the property. I had to run a cable, build a structure, and also buy specific filters for that electromagnetic pollution. A lot of things besides the installation, which cost me a lot, and I had to learn about electromagnetic pollution from scratch. And I would say the most complicated challenge I faced about animals. I'll tell you two things. The first is burying 3 goats. That's a challenge. And also, when you live this way, you connect with that, the cycle of life and death. We see death as something very distant, but animals die in the end. For example, my goats died from bloat. You also learn that through experience. They eat very fresh grass, and what happens is that it ferments in the rumen, which is their main stomach. So their stomach swells up, and literally, they burst, they get stuffed, and they die. So burying the goat, which one day is fine, but it happens overnight, and seeing it agonize at night is really hard. So of course, I've learned how to do it and all that, but you only learn that with experience. And the second challenge, which isn't as dramatic as the first one that I came across. The second problem with the chanichos is the issue with the pig. So to get a pig where I live, the trouble I had to go through, nobody would sell me a pig anywhere. I mean, everywhere I went, there were a lot of pig farms and all that, and I would go and ask, hey, a pig, you know? And they would just say no, like they wouldn't even consider it, just no. They even control my animal feed. I mean, I have to account for the feed I buy and the feed I use. And a lot of farmers would say to me, what do you want? A job? And I'd say, no, I want a pig. Brutal. I get why they do it now, since they make you do it too.
The government is on top of them.
Exactly. And behind all of this, what's there? To control it, to take away our sovereignty? Why? Because if I make it very accessible for you, Hey Jota, I don't forbid it. In fact, I even encourage you to produce your own food. Where's the business? Where's the business if you, Jota, can produce your own food? Well, it's the same with pork.
You're going to be healthier, you're going to be more self-sufficient, you won't give me money, you won't spend on anxiolytics, on antidepressants, on pills, on pharmacies, on doctors. And it's crazy, that's what you're looking for.
So when I got the pig, thank goodness I got the pig. It took me a lot of time, but I got it. For me, having a pig lets you produce food for a long time at very low cost. There's also hunting. I'm going to become a hunter soon. I actually went hunting with a friend in the mountains recently. Awesome, man, a huge deer that we hunted there. Well, he hunted it the day before and I saw a big piece of deer, man. It's amazing. You have meat for a long time, right? With one animal, man, and you didn't even have to feed it, you didn't have to take care of it, it's just out there, free. The animal doesn't know what a barn is, it doesn't know what, I don't know, industrial feed is. The animal is free, so you kill it and that's it. That's the best way, I think, to feed yourself. For you, economically, and for the ecosystem. Vegans and others criticize hunting, claiming it shouldn't be done, but they still buy food at supermarkets. Where do they think that food comes from? Because they've taken away land, they've taken away forests, they've taken away mountains. Well, maybe not mountains, but they've removed a natural ecosystem so the city can be there. And in that natural ecosystem, there were deer, there were wild boars, there were roe deer, there were a lot of things that aren't there anymore, so you can buy at the supermarket. So when people say hunting is one thing or another, it's just not consistent or coherent.
I want to ask you, how many animals do you have and what are they?
What?
Which animals and how many do you have?
Okay, well, look, from least to most. Okay, come on, I'll tell you. The ones that in order, just like I got them, first I had chickens. I had about 30. Now I have a few less because some of them were getting old. For broth and such, because I don't know if you know that.
Chicken broth, old hen makes good broth. That's
What they say,
also said about other things.
my
little joke.
Well, chickens. I had 30, around 30 with two roosters, really handsome roosters, my two roosters. And on top of that, I mean,
They were like real studs. I'm telling you.
but they're at it all day, you know, mating all day long. I don't know if you know this, but roosters don't have a penis. Did you know that?
No.
Well, they don't have a penis
And how do they have sex?
because, I mean, it's a cloaca. So one gets on top of the other and, you know, like a plumbing fitting that goes like this and the water passes through. Well, it's the same, but does the rooster enjoy it? I think so, since he's at it all day, but the hens are there all day too.
They take it away from the rooster.
Well, it's tough, but let's see. Shouldn't we also not violate the hens, huh?
Ah, man, I get along with Fanny, poor thing.
No, I'm not talking about her. I'm saying that one. Yes.
She said roosters rape hens. That's what she said.
It's just the meme, right? And yes, it's not personal. So then hens and roosters. First, then I had chicks, which the hens incubated and the chicks escaped from me. All the chicks died on me because of things in life. They escaped from the place where they were. I have dogs around. They leave the hens alone, but I think one chick got eaten.
The little dogs ate them. How many dogs do you have?
Now I have a bunch. Now I have, look, a Chihuahua from my parents who was in the city and the Chihuahua that lived in the city who is 12 years old. Yes, every time I visited the countryside, I took her along. Miley, that's her name. We would go with the goats and she'd get so happy. Now she's at home with us. Then I have Rocky and Nube, who are two beautiful dogs, and they've just had a bunch of puppies, like 9 or so. And I kept one, Caracol, and then I have another dog named Valentina. She also had 7 puppies with Rocky, who's even more of a stud than the rooster. I can't keep up anymore. Good thing I have a friend who deals with dogs and takes them off my hands, because if not...
No, you can't.
No, you shouldn't. Well, basically...
Dogs aren't self-sufficient and need care.
You have to give them yes and well. Besides the dogs, I also have hens, roosters, and now I have ducks too, all in the same pen, so to speak. I have 2 female ducks and 1 huge male duck. He's really big, you know? The duck is amazing. They're Muscovy ducks, great for meat, both for meat breeds and production breeds. For example, when it comes to goat milk or chickens as well, for production, what does it mean? It means they lay a lot of eggs. For meat, it means they're very big. The same with goats for milk. They produce a lot of milk. For meat, they have very big offspring. That's basically everything. So I have Muscovy ducks, which are for meat. And now a friend of mine from the Hecos community gave me Khaki Campbell duck eggs, a different breed from Muscovy ducks. And those ducks are really good.
Because this egg, which one is it?
These are Muscovy ducks.
This one is from your duck.
From my duck, from my female duck.
From you. Well, yes, it's called a duck, even if it's female, right?
I don't know.
I mean, you say duck. No.
It's a duck that doesn't sit there.
The female duck?
I think it's pata, not like the chair leg. Yeah, I don't know. Now we're sounding a bit weird, aren't we?
This is weird. It's called duck, not the duck.
The female duck or the leg? No.
It's duck.
Oh, debate. Put it in the comments. If it's duck,
How do you say female duck?
pata?
No, it's pato bueno.
Well,
It's the pato, it's a pato, it's a pato, right? Now, even the word pato sounds weird, right?
well, look, these eggs are from the mute patos, and as you can see, they're bigger, also because the chicks are bigger. For example, the eggs from the Kaki Campbell are practically like those from chickens. They're quite a bit smaller like these. Why? Because they have smaller chicks, but they produce a lot of eggs. In fact, the Kaki Campbell patos lay more eggs than chickens.
You were right, it's a duck.
I trust the earpiece means it's a duck.
It's a duck, it's a duck, it's a duck, it's a duck. Hey, I thought duck was like everything.
Well, this gets cut.
Donkey, this doesn't get cut, this stays. I didn't know.
I didn't know either. I also call them duck eggs, but since I say duck, well, so do the Campbells lay more than the hens, man? I mean, it's crazy, huh? Yeah? I have a friend, the one who gave me the eggs, who says he's tired of duck eggs and ducks. He's just tired of eggs and is going to stop. He was going to get more hens, but of course, ducks also need more care. Yeah, hence ducks. I have for now. Later goats?
How many I've had?
8 have died on me. 3 died from bloat, but that's because, of course, I didn't know. They died on me in just 2 days. And well, goats too, man, they're really something. They're very mean. They're herd animals. And when a new one comes in, they beat the hell out of her and killed the other one by hitting her. Dude, seriously? Yeah, man. I brought one. I give names to all the animals. One I called Spinner. I named her Spinner. Why? Because she only had one horn. She had one horn and the other was missing. So, of course, like a spinning top. That's why I gave her that name. My brother tells me I doomed her from the first day because she was going from one side to the other. One would hit her, another would hit her, and in the end, they killed her. So now I have 4 goats. Yes, 4 goats and a kid, a male so you can mate with them. And then I have one that gave birth to 3 kids, 3 males. And then I have another one that's my favorite, my brother's favorite too, which is Amapola. And she gave birth, a super cute, beautiful white goat. And it's a female. I'm more interested in females because I want goats for their milk. So I have 4 goats, 1 male goat, 3 little kids, and also a small female goat that will have the male kids. She gave birth about a month and a half ago, and the other just about a week ago. But of course the 3 kids are like this because they're very small, since there were 3 of them and there wasn't enough space. But the other one, which is just one, is the same as the others. And the other one is a month and a half older. The aunt is very energetic. From my mother, I got the colostrum, which I mentioned earlier as the first milk.
And how did the colostrum make you feel?
I actually have a video making the recipe. It's amazing. It's not milk. Look, it had that milk because it has a lot of defense proteins. In the end, it has a lot. And the baby doesn't prevent this. The baby nurses, but with only one baby, you need to milk her to avoid mastitis. Mastitis is an udder infection from being too full.
She produces much more than what she's actually going to give to the baby.
Exactly. It can get infected and cause her pain, so you have to milk her. Well, when you have colostrum, the colostrum is much more yellowish because it has a lot of fat and almost no water. So is that colostrum a recipe? Whoever has tried colostrum, it must be amazing. You infuse it with cinnamon, with lemon, with orange peel. They're recipes. You keep stirring and heating it without boiling, and suddenly it thickens. It's similar to rice pudding or cottage cheese, which has a grainy texture. So it ends up with a grainy texture with cinnamon and a bit of honey. That's amazing. Plus, it really gets you going, man. That has a ton of...
It really energizes you and makes you want to do everything.
Everything. Yeah, no, look, it's not an aphrodisiac, but I mean, it really makes you feel strong because in the end, that's it. In the end, milk is just so good. Because for mammals, the only food that's made to be digested, well, for humans too, it's the only food that's made for that. Breast milk is the only food specifically made for us and the young of other mammals. So of course, taking something that makes a baby grow, that gives them strength, that makes them healthy and everything is amazing. And if it's raw, then it's even more amazing. So colostrum, which isn't milk for growing a baby, is the first milk that's given to provide all the defenses so that the baby goat is born and doesn't get sick and so on. So that's amazing. If anyone has had the chance to try colostrum, they'll know. I want to try it.
To try colostrum, man.
Let's see if the next goat I have gives me some and I make more colostrum. Man.
If you make colostrum, call me. I want to yell at the moon by a fire.
Oh, was there a full moon there yesterday too? Really beautiful, man.
Yesterday there was a full moon.
Man, of course, you can see the stars there, you can see the moon there. Amazing. I mean, I was lying in bed and I could see, well, I have a lot of olive trees and I can see the end of Olivo Street at night, you know? The full moon is amazing and the stars look incredible. You can see all the constellations. We're not really used to seeing so many stars and the moon like this. Being connected with that darker side also affects us. And when you're more in touch with nature, I totally notice it too.
Brother, I think your lifestyle is amazing, man. I really admire you. And damn, I wish more people would dare to leave the system, because that would truly be its downfall. More people are becoming self-sufficient, right? There are two ways to break the matrix. One is having financial freedom to do whatever you want so the state can control you through the rat race, and the other is the one you have.
But I'm not saying that financial freedom is bad, and in the end it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? But for example, no matter how much money you have, for example, if you're in a city and you live in the apartment or the house you want, and all your supplies depend on the system, what kind of freedom is that? You know what I mean? In the end, when the blackout happened, no matter how much money you had, you couldn't have, if it lasted, for example, you couldn't have food. Unless you have a pantry or raise your own animals like people did in the past, you don't need much money or resources. But I think that's true freedom, in my opinion. It's not being dependent, because you can't depend economically. You can have financial freedom, which is great, but for me, I'd use it to ensure all the essential services I rely on from the system are covered. Because besides depending on money and everything else, you also depend on the services they provide you. So, getting all those services for yourself, being prepared, producing your own food, producing your own energy, and producing your own water. If you have money, you can do amazing things, you know what I mean? And that's how it was.
Well, that's it, IKER. Honestly, this has been an amazing show. You are truly someone who is outside the system. I know it may sound repetitive, but I don't have much else to add. I really admire your youth, focus, principles, and values. To end, do you have anything to say to the audience?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you very much, Jota. And also, well, partly it's thanks to people like you and others who are on social media. They are also people who make you wake up to these points of dependence on the system with more blatant things. And in the end, I think at first it's people like you who inspire others to stop depending. And what I'm seeing is simply the way. It's like I've found an escape route and a way out. But without people like you who help awaken consciences, I wouldn't be here. So first of all, thank you, and for inviting me to the podcast, and next, for everyone who is watching us. The only thing I can tell you is that if you want to live a more natural life or be more connected with nature and so on, and you want to make the change of moving to the city or going to the countryside and being more self-sufficient, what I recommend to you above all is to be consistent with your actions. What does it mean to be consistent with your actions? For example, if I live in the city and I want to move to the countryside, I have to leave many things behind. I have to change, and I have to embrace the change, so to speak, because people suffer from change. We go through changes, but we don't have to suffer because of them. What does it mean that if the wind blows to the left, I have to go to the left, but I can't go against the current? It shouldn't affect me if the wind doesn't blow in the direction I want. So you have to know how to surf and go with the direction, with the circumstances happening around you. So that's what I would tell people. Be consistent, embrace change, accept it, don't see it as something bad, but as an opportunity to grow. And above all, if you want something like a more self-sufficient life or whatever it may be, this goes beyond that your actions and your thoughts go in the same direction. If you want to go one way and you're thinking about doing something, but your actions take you in a completely opposite direction, you're not going to get to your goal. And it's not, above all, a lack of unity. So you have to come together, keep very clear where you want to go. And well, then you just go on your own. A lot of people ask me how, they say, how did you do it? And I tell you, by wanting to. Because if I tell you how, I could say, well, yes, I found it this way, this and that, but there are 1,000 ways. If I ask you, Jay, how do we get to downtown Madrid? You'll say there are 1,000 ways. But if I say, Jay, let's go to Madrid, I want to go. There's only one desire. So if we focus on what we want, the ways will come naturally. That's why if we want something, we shouldn't worry about how. The how will come on its own, since focusing on it can paralyze us. Because there are 1,000 ways to accomplish anything, there are 1,000 ways to do things. So if we focus on the way we're going to do it, we already lose that perspective. And we say, okay, well, since there are so many, I get blocked. However, if you say, I want, and you really focus on that, then you'll find the way. Like they say, traveler, there is no path, you make the path by walking. And that's how it is, because you don't really need to know the path you're going to take, just where you want to go. Then the path will reveal itself to you.
Well, Iker, great message for everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this amazing show. His social media will be in the description. Anyone who wants to follow him, anyone who wants to learn how to live a self-sufficient life, I strongly recommend you go and follow him. A great person, and above all,
with a lot of guts.
He's got a lot of guts. And this gift is one of the best. One of the best gifts I've ever received. Never before. Although I think it's ruined my life because I'm never going to want anything else again.
Thank you very much, IKER. Thank you very much, Jota.
See you in the next episode of Le Factoria, Mr. Chow.